and welcome to tonight's Undaunted, bringing to the news untold stories. I am Oyi Opala. Let's begin. In recent days, many Cameroonians have reported unusually slow internet speeds and limited access to social media platforms across several mobile networks. The disruptions comes at a time of heightened political tensions, raising widespread concern that the government may once again be deliberately restricting internet connectivity. This situation has remained and reminded many citizens of the 2017 internet shutdown in southern Cameroons, when the government cut off online access for 93 days amidst the early stages of the Ambazonian crisis. That blackout crippled communication, silenced activists, and severely impacted local businesses. Today, with renewed unrest linked to the linguistic tensions, the ongoing Ambazonian war, and the release of election results, observers fear a repeat of those measures. Several digital rights groups and ordinary users suspect that the current slowdown is not a technical issue, but rather a government-ordered restriction amid at limiting access to information and preventing the spread of political content. As a precaution, many Cameroonians are turning to virtual private networks, the VPNs, to maintain access to independent news and communication channels. Experts advise that installing VPN software now is crucial, since downloading such tools may become impossible once a full internet shutdown is implemented. Across the country, users report that certain platforms, especially Facebook, WhatsApp, and X, formerly Twitter, are becoming increasingly difficult to access without VPNs. This pattern mirrors the early stages of previous network restrictions imposed under the jurisdiction of national security or remote control. Given Cameroon's history of politically motivated internet interference, the current slowdown is widely viewed as a warning sign of possible government censorship. Many fear that the authorities are tightening control over the online communication to suppress dissent and restrict citizens' ability to share or receive information freely during this sensitive period. All these and more will delve on tonight's Undaunted, but first, let's get the prime headlines. Well, tonight, Cameroon's Gen Z denounces election fraud in the Cameroons, demand transparency in open letter to President Paul Biya. Chief Oscar Sonia Ebanja, Paramount ruler of Balong tribe, urges respect for democratic process. Tchiroma supporters stage victory march in Ngaoundere amid internet slowdown and, of course, the heightened tensions. Also, growing intimidation of Ambazonian youths in Buea has become the order of the day. And in African news, Ivory Coast blockhouse neighborhoods weary but hopeful ahead of its own tense election. And on the foreign scene, former French President Nicolas Sarkozy spends first night in prison under tight security. Now let's get the news in full briefings. A coalition of young Cameroonians identifying as Generation Z has released an open letter to President Paul Biya and his government, accusing authorities of manipulating the country's October 12th presidential election. The group wants that continued fraud could plunge the nation into unrest and demands full transparency in publishing polling station results. The letter, titled Stop Electoral Fraud, Cameroon Doesn't Deserve This Political Bog, calls on the colonial government to respect the people's will and ensure fair and competitive election. Generation Z members claim they are not fooled by alleged manipulation of results, stating that electoral fraud is not an inheritance, it is a red flag. The group outlined 5 main demands, including the immediate publication of all polling station vote tallies online and ensuring fair and competitive elections. They also urged the country's security forces to stand on the side of the people and the truth. The movement warns that if their votes are not honored, citizens will go on the offensive to defend the truth and make their choices respected. The letter accuses the Biya's government of deepening distrust in the political system, warning that continued discrediting of the electoral process could worsen the crisis of confidence and risk civil war. According to them, they say they are guaranteeing enormous trouble and cyber attacks in the coming days if their demands are not met. Paul Biya, who is 92 years old, has ruled the Cameroon since 1982, making him one of Africa's longest-serving leaders. Young Cameroonians, who make up nearly 3/4 of the population, say they are increasingly disillusioned with political stagnation and unemployment. There's your actions today are our reality tomorrow. The Gen Z statement also said that they are the generation that never loses its battle. While the winner of the October 12th presidential election in the Cameroons is scheduled to be declared either today, Thursday, October 23rd, or by 27th of October by the Constitutional Council. Barrister Mbeseha, welcome to tonight's Undaunted.
Thank you for having me.
Generation Z, coming out from wherever they are coming out from, but making bold statements as to what they want, the demands that they seek. Do you think that it will be met by anyone at all?
Well, there's no question for me. What we know is that the demands have been made. It's not Generation Z alone. Cameroonians all over and most civilized people in the world have made these similar demands over the decades. It's not the first time. It has never been met. The question is whether now, at this time in 2025, the criminals in Ngaoundere, who had always thought that they were invincible, whether they would yield to this voice and thousands of other voices that have asked that the ballot box results be respected. See, this is not the first time in the history of the world since the world adopted democracy, which is indirect rule, the majority giving power to the minority to rule. If the voice of the majority is not respected, it ceases to be democracy. So we can only think and believe that the junta in Yaoundé, which coincidentally is a disappearing junta because they are old, physically old in age, ranging from the 80s. Few human beings live up to that age. We can only hope that they will yield and go to their graves admitting one thing that they try to do for the rest of for all their lives, but failed to concretize it. They failed to put democracy their own way. The people spoke and they were forced to listen. That is our prayer for Cameroon as a whole. We thank Generation Z for even at least adding their own mouth to it. We don't know what weapons they have to enforce it, but if they have any weapons, let them triple their efforts. Let not their voices die in vain like others. Because here is 2025, no country in the world, no one is being ruled by a leader 90 years plus old. And so God will bless their effort. God will bless the efforts of all other people, both Cameroonians and sympathizers, seeking honesty, seeking the voice of the people, not the voice of the individuals in Yaoundé. Over to you.
All right, thank you so much. Not just the Generation Z, like you said, I agree with you. Also, the chief of the Balong tribe in Kumber, Mukonjo village has called on Cameroon's Constitutional Council to respect the will of the people as the nation awaits the declaration of the 12th October presidential election results. His remarks comes amid rising tensions and widespread allegations of electoral fraud. In a video message, Chief Ebanja denounced the hypocrisy of some traditional leaders who he said speak of peace without confronting the root causes of injustice. He emphasized that genuine peace must be grounded in fairness, transparency, and respect for the democratic process, warning that silence in the face of irregularities only deepens public mistrust. While several funds and traditional rulers have openly aligned themselves with what many describe as a failed regime, Chief Ebanja's outspoken stance distinguishes him as a voice of integrity and courage in the current political climate. His call for accountability challenges other leaders to prioritize national interest over political loyalty. By urging the Constitutional Council to uphold the people's choice, Chief Ebanja advocates for a democratic process rooted in transparency and the rule of law. His position underscores the critical role of traditional authority in the Cameroons and in Ambazonian. Let's get to hear him.
So, in these critical hours of our nation's history, my fellow chiefs have taken to the platform to address the people. So I would like to do the same. Chief Oscar Sona Ebanja here, Chief of Mukonjo Village and Paramount ruler of the Balong tribe. My message I would like to address to the Constitutional Council. To them, I would like to say this: the people are a mirror. They reflect the image you show them. Show them integrity, and they will respond with peace. Speak the truth, and they will honor it. But if you show them deceit, if you disregard their voices which they've spoken through their votes, the reflection will be one of chaos and pain. Even the Holy Book tells us you reap what you sow. If you plant the wind, you'll get a tornado. The power to shape the nation's future rests on your next actions on Thursday. Let the reflection we see in our people be one of justice and hope. Thank you.
Right, some base here at Monday, we're talking about some funds who are already challenging people to sit back and, wait for the presidency and the electoral council to announce results, obviously showing that they were being paid from the Cameroonian regime and all of that. Here we have another fund who is trying to change the narrative. What can you say about this?
What I can say is that Chief Ebanja's voice looks, in terms of religion, like the voice of John the Baptist crying in the wilderness. And so that is what he is doing. He says in his first segment that other chiefs have spoken and funds. He wants to add his own voice. But adding his own voice, you find that his own voice is so different from the voices of the other chiefs and funds. What were the other chiefs and funds saying? They simply said, obey. Do what the administration tells you, because the administration to them is always right. If you don't want to kill you, accept. Chief Ebanja's own voice is different. He's talking to the Constitutional Council, whose duty is to write the law, to write the rules, to pronounce the law as it is. And he tells them they will go down in history if they fail to do their business. Chief Ebanja is in Kumba, Mokonje. Kumba is not very far from Mokonje, is so near to Kumba Town, where you found Chief Mokete a few days or weeks ago, coming down and threatening people if they don't receive their salary and don't vote for a CPDM, they will go to hell. Ebanja is not very far from Atom Ebako, who passes as one of the most important chiefs in the so-called Southwest House of Chiefs, who has threatened people and told the world that they assure Mr. Biya 100% from the so-called Southwest. This is the lone voice of John the Baptist crying in the wilderness, as I've said. Ebanja is so stand out. He's very young by his physical age, but I think he's also full of wisdom. History will have it recorded that will refuse to listen to this young man. He's very young, I said. John the Baptist was not an old man. He's younger than Atom Ebako, who fronts as a thief and passes for a chief. Same too like the ones of Bamenda, the fond of Mancon, and all those other forms and chiefs. Now, at the time of trouble, you find Chief Ebanja, the only spoken chief in the Southwest, perhaps they call it. Where are the chiefs of the Littoral, the Ngondos, the chiefs of the West, the chiefs of the North, the East and the South? Where are they? They are all accomplices to this criminal way of doing politics. And so we can only say kudos to Dr. Chief Ebanja and Mokonye. We can only say you are distancing yourself from the evil clan that surrounds you. God will bless you. God will listen to you. God will protect you so that your message can be carried ahead. Well, remember, as I said, this is John the Baptist. John the Baptist did not even live to see Christ die. He was killed. For bringing the message, the Savior is coming, he was killed even before the Savior himself survived. And so, that is John the Baptist. We can all pray for Ebanja, for being, for now, the lone star shining in the devil, in the twilight of hell. Thank you for having the bold steps to do that. We hope God will continue to help you. The future is yours. The future is ours, depending on where we are. But as a chief, you carry the mantle of the people. You've spoken for the people. You have spoken the voice of the people. You have spoken the gods of the villages from where you come. We say thank you and God bless you.
All right, still on the election and election results awaiting. Supporters of Isa Tchiroma Bakare state what they tag as victory parade this Thursday morning in Ngaoundere, celebrating what they claim to be his triumph in the October 12th presidential election, days before the Constitutional Council is due to proclaim official results on Monday, October 27. State security forces were seen escorting or standing by as the demonstrators marched through the streets, showing little resistance to the rally, which appeared to have received at least tacit approval from local authorities. Surprising. The demonstration comes amid widespread speculation that incumbent President Paul Biya is set to be declared the winner. Preliminary figures reportedly emerging from the National Vote Counting Commission indicate a Biya victory, though opposition groups and civil society organizations have denounced the process as deeply flawed and marred by irregularities. Residents across Ngaoundere reported unusually slow internet connectivity on Thursday morning, with many suggesting that the disruption was deliberate. The slowdown has fueled concerns of an impending nationwide internet shutdown and increasingly familiar tactics during political sensitive periods. Analysts said the move appears designed to limit communication and discourage public gatherings. Even with home-based connections such as Starlink still operational in some areas, the apparent strategy seems aimed at keeping citizens indoors. Observers note that many Cameroonians remain skeptical about the electoral process, expressing frustration over what they see as a system stacked in favor of the ruling establishment. For some, the ongoing situation reinforces the belief that entrenched leaders in the region cannot be removed through the ballot box alone. As tensions simmer and uncertainty grows, the coming days are expected to be crucial in determining not only the official outcome of the elections, but also the trajectory of Cameroon's political stability. Barrister Mbeseha, the question this evening is, would there be political stability for the first time? I wouldn't know if it's the first time, probably in history. There would have been other times people are protesting and demonstrating in the street, and the securities are not probably harassing them or maltreating them. What do you think this could mean? Does it even mean anything? Let's hear from you that has been there in time of history.
It means a lot, especially to Ambazonians. People are protesting, which is their right. Nobody is shooting on them, which is the rule. Then look back just a few days, few months, weeks back. That is Cameroon, which according to them, it includes something called the Northwest and Southwest. People in the Northwest cannot even stand up with Southwest. They cannot raise a finger. They are not just going to be arrested, they are going to be killed. They will be shot live and they will die. And so, does this have any meaning to us? It should have. We have said as Ambazonians, we are not part of this government. We are not part of this state called Cameroon. From A to Z, we are not part of them. None of them can explain why they would open live bullets on us, Ambazonians, for just talking. In 2016, they were just talking, a form of state. They did not arrest our leaders alone. They came and destroyed the homes of the Ambazonians, no matter where they lived. They burnt your houses. They killed your children, just for talking. These are the same Cameroonians in the same context, exercising their right to talk, to demonstrate, and they are being accompanied by the same security forces. So what does that mean to us? As you said before, and I insist, we are not part of this state called Cameroon. It's not us saying it. By their own actions, by their words, by their deeds, they have demonstrated that we are not part of them. Is there any reason why any of us, Ambazonians, should go die to support this thing? No. In the United States, for example, we go out and demonstrate. We demonstrate in favor of Palestine. We demonstrate in favor of Israel. We demonstrate in favor of Ukraine or any other place in the world, subject to only one condition, that the security forces will not open fire on us. They will not do us any harm. And so, when the game changes in Cameroon, Ambazonians have to be careful. Tchiroma supporters have the right to demonstrate for their victory. They have the right to fight for what is theirs. If they won the election, they must be given the victory that they earned at the polls. And so if you take it from them, you are stealing from them what belongs to them. You must stop them from taking what belongs to them. And so that is what we can learn from it. Can Ambazonians learn something? A lot from it, yes. And these protests are going, I mean, as Harris talk about shutting down the internet. It looks like the Cameroon ruling class is so old, so outdated, they don't have an idea what they are doing. You can shut down the internet for some time. You cannot shut down the circulation of information forever. They don't even know what is meant by VPN, sorry, if they know it. Whether you shut it down or not, people in this modern world of 2025 will devise means of communication. We don't need to have internet from Buea, from Puma, from Ngaoundere to talk. You can get a device that contains all that thing. That is where technology has beaten them. Why are they doing all this? They are doing this because of election fraud. When they dashed into polling stations, created fake polling stations, were stuffing boxes to claim that Biya had won. They never realized that because of modern technology, somebody was taking them pictures. They were videotaping them. They were recording them even in their private conversations. And so they can only pretend, they can only be so stupid to be more stupid. Tchiroma and the people of Cameroon who believe that they won the election and they are being cheated of the elections have the right to demonstrate or to the point that they get what they get. I've said here before, the Cameroonians, like other people in the world, have the government they deserve. Fight for what is yours, and you get it. I said yesterday, don't go to pray in the mosque, don't go to pray in the temple, don't go to pray in the cathedral. God is not there. God will accompany you wherever you are and will bless your efforts, even in the battlefield. And so that is that. Yeah. People have to fight for what they earn. Mr. Tchiroma, I think, from what we see as observers, the population is behind for you. You will only be a traitor if you betray them. Stand the ground. Be the hero whose blood will water the tree of liberty in that country. They would have gone down in history, in the history books of Cameroon, that you fought. You delivered the people. Though you did not enjoy the fruits, yet your successors would. Over to you, and thank you for having me.
All right, but Barrister, this particular report also indicated the fact and the possibility that the sitting president may likely return to seats, and that's the reason why they had the unrest in the streets, the people coming out to, have this mini kind of protest that we witnessed today. Would you be in any way surprised if President Paul Biya returns to office, just like the reports and the news around the globe is trying to indicate?
Well, I would not be surprised. I would only be surprised if President Paul Biya gives in now to pressure, because he has never been in office because he won any elections. He's always manipulated his way to be in power. You remember, a few months ago, a document circulated, the strategy for maintaining power by the Bulus and the Betis. It was well documented, well planned in advance to keep power for centuries. And if Paul Biya should bend to this pressure to accept defeat, that would be my surprise. I will not be surprised if he keeps himself there. Because his goal is not to rule now. Their goal is to be giving state funerals. Paul Biya at his age will die soon. But I think he prefers to be given a state funeral like a dead dictator than to go down in the private cartier like you and me. And there are many of them. Atangana, the chairman or the president of the Constitutional Council, he's in his 80s. He's a sickling man. He's very, very sick. He would prefer to be buried given a state funeral as the chairman of the Cameroon Constitutional Council. That's what he wants, rather than to give up that post and go and die in his private home. That's what they are all looking for. And so, again, there's time for everything. The gods have spoken, I think. The gods have told them, you have come to the end of your journey. You have to pack and go home. As I said yesterday, the office of the president, the offices as a whole, be it president of the Constitutional Council or what, they are state offices. They are not family offices. They are not personal privileges that you earn. So you've taken your time. Why not walk away? Death will come to you. Whatever type of funeral you are giving is no longer your problem. You wouldn't take a drink during your own funeral. You won't eat a slice of chicken during your own funeral. The others who live and rejoice after you would. So let these people fight for what they are entitled to. Again, to your question, the exception to me, the surprise to me will be that Paul Biya will give up, because he has never given up in all his endeavors to steal. He's always succeeded. But I hope and I pray that this should be the end. For there comes a time that everything must come to an end. Even the good and the bad have to come to an end. Paul Biya's good deeds, his bad deeds have come to an end. Let him give room for another person. Even as the Bishop of Yagua says, if it is the best devil, let the best devil take, I will produce the best out of him. Over to you.
All right, but before we leave this particular report, because this seems to be our main report for today, Barrister, let's talk about these protests that we have seen around different areas in Ambazonian, the protests that people are on the streets, backriders are trying to have convoy and all of that. how long do you think this will last? Because for today, we are seeing that the security or the police didn't have any form of reaction. More like there was no harassment, there was no intimidation. People were allowed to express themselves in form of protest, which has really never been seen before or for a long time. How long do you think that this freedom of expression will last?
Well, I think the freedom of expression and the protest will last as long as the injustice lasts. When it will end and how it will end, we don't know. But they are protesting against an injustice, which is glaring, it is open. But to me, my recommendation would be, as long as you don't have what you want, you don't have what is yours, continue to protest. Because it takes power, it takes energy, it takes time to bend the back of a piece of iron. They are strong, they have been very strong for 50 years or plus. They have built the system that protects them. They have built cages in which they live. It will need more force to break through the cage, to break through the iron gates. So, but I would think that they are bending. The iron is getting hot. When the iron gets hot, it bends faster. The iron is hot, it is bending. If it is not bending, how would they justify that their so-called elections, the results which were due for today, were not delivered? They have been postponed until Monday. And who knows what happens on Monday? Maybe there will no election results. Maybe there will result not the way they want. Or maybe there will result the way they really want. Let us wait and see. The iron is hotter. Nobody can be stronger than the people. The Constitutional Council of a few members cannot be stronger than millions of Cameroonians. They will not. At the risk of their own lives, they wouldn't be. Paul Biya, with 50, 60 years of experience, will not be stronger than the people. Not to talk about the Atangajis, who are just the weaver birds making the noises. They cannot be stronger than the people. And so that is what it is. We don't know how soon it will end, but my presumption is that it will end soon, because the tides are so strong that it becomes difficult for any normal human being to bear without the blessings from God. If I were God, I would think, if I were a prophet, I would say that the gods have abandoned them. They've abandoned the criminals to their own fate. But let's wait and see. Monday is coming. We should make Omar on that day. So says Bennett from Long.
All right. Meanwhile, a wave of intimidation swept through the streets of Buea today as several young people were arrested by police officers, some even without possessing identification cards. The arrests, reportedly carried out as preemptive measures, were aimed at discouraging participation in planned protests scheduled for today. So eyewitnesses told newsmen that officers randomly stopped and detained young men and women, interrogating them about their affiliations and reasons for being outdoors. One victim recounted that the commissioner said if they take part in any protest, there will be legal actions against them because they took their pictures and ID cards. After hours of detention, the youths were released, but Sterling warned not to take part in any demonstrations, especially those organized by opposition or pro-Ambazonian groups. Now, this incident is just one amongst many acts of intimidation that residents of Buea and other parts of the Ambazonian areas have endured in recent years. Young people are often subjected to arbitrary arrests, identity checks, and harassment by security forces, particularly around politically sensitive dates or remote protest movements. Human rights advocates have repeatedly denounced such actions as violations of basic freedoms of movement, expression, and assembly. Yet, fear remains widespread. Many Ambazonians report feeling constantly monitored, with police and military presence a near permanent feature of daily life. The recurring arrest, confiscation of ID cards, and public warning serves as deliberate tools of psychological pressure designed to silence dissent and stifle civic participation. For many, today's events in Buea are not, of course, it's not isolated, but part of the broader campaign of control and intimidation targeting. The emphasis is targeting the Ambazonian population. And so as tensions continues to build ahead of today's expected protest, residents remain uncertain, fearful that any attempt to speak out could lead to detention, reprisal, or worse. Now, this is only in Ambazonian areas. The other reports we just treated, we saw reports in the French Cameroon area where protest was free, people were moving around, but in Ambazonian areas, arrests were made, intimidation was carried out. I mean, confiscation of ID cards and pictures just in case people wanted to protest. And so you can see that these are two separate countries, of course, trying to see how they can live together. But you know, Ambazonians, some Ambazonians, especially those who do not understand the statements and the stand of the government of Ambazonia, will only fall prey to this kind of movement. Why go out to protest? Barrister Mbeseha, you can see the differences between this and that.
Well, there are differences which I've already expressed earlier. There are great differences. If people in Buea, in Ngaoundere, in Garua, and so on and so forth, are free to go out and say we support Mr. Tchiroma, and nobody will arrest them, they are expressing their opinions. Why would somebody be arrested in Buea if the person comes and say I support Ambazonian? That's an opinion. What's the crime there? Why would somebody come and say I support Ambazonia? They killed, at the very least extorted with some sort of money. Is that not a human right? Is that not their right to speak their minds? They are. And so these people have two measures for one system, which is not acceptable. If people must have the freedom to stand for what they stand for, they demonstrate for what they stand for. From Beya to Buea, from Buea to Ngaoundere, the same should apply. And so the laws that includes our Ambazonia for now do not say that if you stand up in Buea and support an opposition party, for example, this is the opposition party, call it Tchiroma, they are looking for supporters of Tchiroma there. Because you are doing it in Buea, we will catch you. If you are doing it in Bafusam, nobody will lock you up. If you are doing it in Garua, nobody will do anything harmful to you. But you do it in Buea, you are caught. You do it in Bamenda, they extract money from you. The same thing. The world does not speak one language. The world of Cameroon does not even speak one party. The same thing will apply. You support Tchiroma, whatever his party is called. You support Paul Biya, whatever his party is called. You support us. That is an opinion. It is your right to do it. Your support for Ambazonia, per se, does not make Ambazonia part of the presidency of Yaoundé. But you should not be silenced from saying that. If people in Cameroon, anywhere in Cameroon, can support Ukraine, I support Israel, I support Palestine, I support Senegal, what is wrong in standing there and saying I support Ambazonia? What is the crime there? Palestine is not a state. We know that. And so, again, this is a country with wonderful bad faith. This is a country who are themselves criminally created. There are people who are destroyed, who are poisoned to their hearts, who don't have the human feelings of anything. They extort from you because it's you. They rape the other woman because that is not their daughter. You are not their son, you are not their brothers. And so this is so bad. This is so bad. We've always said, Ambazonian, open your eyes. We don't belong to this system. We shall not belong to it. It is better that they cut us and call in Yaoundé and say that you are foreigners disturbing in our own country. Then they come and catch me in Buea, in your own country, and say you are demonstrating against them in your own country. You don't have the right to do that. Never, never, never. Over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Barrister, for coming on tonight's Undaunted. It was amazing having you tonight. Well, the date for the results is no longer far. Let's see the difference that it will make. But for now, we'll let you go, knowing that we'll see you again tomorrow or on Saturday for this week on Ambazonian.
Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you. When we come back right after the break, we'll head into Africa, where Ivory Coast blockhouses neighborhood are weary but hopeful ahead of the tense elections that they are facing. Ahead of Ivory Coast presidential election on Saturday, a sense of apathy hangs over Abidjan's blockhouse neighborhood, an area still reeling from recent protests that left several wounded and led to the arrest of hundreds. Earlier this month, security forces fired tear gas at demonstrators after authorities declared the protest illegal, citing a ban on political marches imposed days before. Although elections in Ivory Coast have often been marked by tension and violence, the lead up to this vote has been relatively calm compared to past years. However, residents in blockhouses say the earlier clashes have left deep scars, with many homes affected by tear gas and reports of police entering houses in search of protesters. The violence has also taken a toll on daily life and the local economy. Many in the community say businesses have slowed sharply as political uncertainty has discouraged spending and disrupted normal activities. In the neighborhoods, barbershops and markets, residents describe a general slowdown in trade and rising prices for basic goods. Despite the lingering tension, some residents remain hopeful that the election will pass without major incidents. They see stability as crucial to restoring economic activity and easing the financial pressures that have built up in recent months. Memories of the 2010 election crisis, which left about 3,000 people dead after then President Laurent Gbagbo refused to concede the fate, continues to loom large over the country. As Ivorians prepare to vote, many are prioritizing peace and stability above political allegiance, hoping to avoid a repeat of the violence that has marred past elections. And that's it from African News. When we return right after the break, we'll head to news across the globe, where former French President Nicolas Sarkozy spends first night in prison under tight security. Former French President Nicolas Sarkozy spent his first night in prison under special protection, accompanied by two police officers stationed in a neighboring cell to ensure his safety. The heightened security measures were implemented due to ongoing threats against him and his status as former head of state. Sarkozy is serving a 5-year prison sentence after being found guilty of criminal conspiracy linked to illegal campaign financing. French authorities have confirmed that the additional security arrangements will remain in place for as long as necessary to guarantee his protection while in custody. The former president is being held at La Santé prison in Paris, one of France's most secure correctional facilities. He is reported to be separated from the general inmate population to minimize potential risk and maintain order within the institution. Prison staff have reportedly been instructed to observe strict confidentiality regarding his movements and interactions. Sarkozy's imprisonment marks a historic movement and moment for France as he becomes the first former president in modern French history to serve term in a conventional prison rather than under house arrest. The decision has drawn public attention, reigniting debate about political accountability and judicial independence in the country. Supporters of the former president continues to argue that his conviction was politically motivated, while critics maintain that the ruling demonstrates the strength of France's legal system and the case continues to unfold. Sarkozy's legal team is expected to pursue further appeals in an effort to overturn the verdict and reduce his sentence. That's it for tonight's Undaunted. Bring it to the news and short stories. But before we go, let's take a look at the news that made it to the headlines. Cameroon's Gen Z denounces election fraud in the Cameroons, demands transparency in open letter to President Biya. Also tonight, we told you that Chief Oscar Sona Ebanja, Paramount ruler of the Balong tribe, urges respect for democratic process. We also told you that Tchiroma supporters state what they tag as victory march in Ngaoundere amidst the internet slowdown and, of course, the tensions. We tonight told you that the growing intimidation of Ambazonian youth in Buea has risen. On the African scene, we went to Ivory Coast, where the blockhouse neighborhood are weary but hopeful ahead of Saturday's election. While on the foreign scene, we went to France, where the former French president Nicolas Sarkozy is spending the first night in prison under tight security. And that's it for tonight's Undaunted. Bring into the news Untold Stories. On behalf of Barista team Mbeseha and a team of technicians behind tonight's production, it's good night and God bless.